Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another quick edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, and we are just going to go through. This will probably be a two-parter, so expect another episode maybe later in the week, maybe next week. Santoki will probably jump on. So this is a bit of a two-parter in terms of dipping into the CCP mailbag. We should do these episodes far more often than we do. And the reason why we don't do it more often is because we forget. It's as simple as that. Work, you know work is mashing me up. Whenever you see this beard looking like I ain't shaved and I got no intention of having a shape up or a trim, that's when you know that work is on top. I ain't got time. I ain't got half an hour to waste sitting in the barber's chair. No. We got to push on through. We got to push on through Caveman Flex, 2024 Caveman Flex. But anyways, I sent out the back call and I said, anybody got any questions that you want answered on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast mailbag episode? Because although we do the Monday night mashup and although we do the occasional lives here and there, we don't always get to the key questions that you want answered. So here's part one of the mailbag episode. By the time this comes out, I reckon that that CPL match between Trinidad and Guyana will probably either, if it hasn't started, it'll be starting within the next 10, 15, 20 minutes by the time I actually put this online. So if that game sucks, I hope you're watching this instead. If that game ruled, I hope you're watching this afterwards. But either way, watch the video. And then when you're watching it, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, share it in your WhatsApp, share it in your Facebooks, share it in your Instas, share it on your OnlyFans, share it on your Snapchats, share it on your TikToks, share it. You done know the done know. Let's get into it anyways. First question. How many have I put in this episode? 1, 2, 3. I think it's about 6 or 7. First question out of the CCP mailbag goes as follows. And big up Julian. I think this one's from Julian. How do we stop the loss of mainly Bayesian players to England? And is it possible for West Indies to do what England do and tap into the diaspora and select players from England, etc., with Caribbean heritage? Okay, fine. So let's deal with this as a two-parter. First part, and obviously everyone get in the comments below because you may not agree with the response that I give. You may feel that I've missed something out, which is fine. First part, how do we stop the loss of mainly Bayesian players to England? So what I need in order to answer that question, and if you hear me tapping in the background, it's because I'm searching up something which I want for the second part of the question. So what I need is somebody from Barbados to come on the show. So if you're watching this and you feel that you are well versed enough to explain this, I know some obviously historical stuff, but I'm not gonna try and mansplain or diaspora-splain the explanation for this. What I do know is this. Jofra Archer, I think his dad has a British passport. Jacob Bethel, his dad is British. Chris Jordan. I actually don't know what it is with Chris Jordan. Shea Hope came over here for schoolboy cricket, could have naturalised and represented England, but went back to Barbados. Who's the other person I'm missing? Chase Simmons is over here at the moment. I don't know if he can qualify. Obviously, in the Caribbean, Barbados is known as Little England, and they're out of all of the people about to get vexed, Barbadians about to get vexed with some of what I'm about to say, but it's true. Out of all of the Caribbean, thing is, it's not well. Okay, no, that's harsh. Obviously, Barbados has become a republic, right? So on one hand, you have to accept the fact that Barbados is a republic. They've broken away from England and they see themselves as their own nation. Great, good for them. And my country, Jamaica, has not done that. So who am I to talk? But on the same side of that coin, or on the other side of that coin, I would say that Barbados is the most forthcoming nation vis-a-vis England tourists. It's traditionally been known as Little England. I think it's the most accepting of the Caribbean nations, islands to English tourists. So there is I say that to say that there is a I think there is a natural affinity for some Bajans with England. Look at Garfield Sobers. Didn't he do that article or interview where he said he bust some tears when Barbados broke away from England and became a republic? So I've always assumed and felt that beyond the whole passports, obviously we can get into the kind of literal element of it all, that some people from Barbados will go and represent England because, well, their parents have passports, and therefore, and some of them having the British passports themselves, so therefore they are British and they have every right to claim that they are British in some shape or form. People will listen to me and they'll hear my accent and say, stink English boy, this British man, XYZ. But I've got a Jamaican passport. I've got a Jamaican passport. I've got a British passport. I was born in Jamaica. It would be no different to me, if I could, in any kind of avenue, representing Jamaica. It's kind of different because Jamaica's the land of my birth. But if a Bajan was born in the UK, has spent most of their life in Barbados, or they qualify for the UK through passport or parental reasons, etc., they have every right to represent England. So, in order to answer your question, how do we stop the loss of it? I mean, is that the right question to ask? The question we've got to ask ourselves is, why don't those players want to represent the West Indies? That's really the question you should be asking. Why don't they want to represent the West Indies? Is it purely a financial decision they're taking, or do they feel no affinity with where they're from? Sounds kind of cold when you put it like that, but listen, it is what it is. I ain't business. I stand on business. I'm going to say what I want to say. Who want vex, get vex. How about that? Next part. Is it possible for West Indies to do what England do and tap into the diaspora? How many times have I said this? The biggest failing of Cricket West Indies is not tapping into the options we have to get diaspora talent. I did a thread on our X page, Twitter page, which I'm trying to find, but I don't know. Fam, I don't even know if I can find it anymore. It's going to take me some. I'm waffling as I try to find it. But if you go on our X page, I did a thread about 6 months ago where I listed loads of players around. One of them was the Australian brothers. What's their names? Is it Davies? Is that their surnames? Let's see if I can find it, people. Bear with me. There we go. Yes, I knew it. I found it, people. So here we go. The following players can represent West Indies. This is just from the diaspora, just random players who could easily represent West Indies, okay? So Daniel Bell Drummond, Kent captain, can represent the West Indies through his father. Joshua De Caires, Michael Atherton's son, can represent the West Indies because Joshua's mother is Guyanese. These are the same said reasons when people like Bethel and Archer are playing for England. It's the same said thing that's helping them play for England. So the person who submitted this question has every right to make this point. Let's go on. Nathan Barnwell, I think he's playing in England. Is it for Surrey Twos or something? Oliver Davies, Joel Davies, who play, I think their mum is from Trinidad. They play in Australia for one of those teams. I can't remember which one. Emilio Gay just signed for Durham in England. I think his mother is Grenadian, or is it his father? So that's just 6 players straight away who all play, generally speaking, apart from the 2 Aussies, Oliver and, is it Oliver and Will? Is that the names? Sorry, Oliver and Joel, sorry. Apart from the 2 Aussies, that's 6 players immediately who I know through parents or whatever reason can represent the West Indies. But the writer is correct to then point out the second part, actually, which I haven't even included in the question, which is that the problem for some of them, so take Emilio Gay, for example, who will never play for the West Indies because he's made it clear he wants to represent England, or Daniel Bell Drummond. if he ever did declare for the West Indies, he would suddenly, or play for West Indies, he would then become an overseas player. So a problem that some of these diaspora players have is, would their county be willing to consider them an overseas player and still pick them if they suddenly declared for the West Indies? And when you've got to weigh that up and you've got to consider the financial ramifications of doing so, and potentially losing earnings because there's no guarantee that the counties you're playing for now want you because you're now seen as an overseas player, I get why some of them wouldn't do it. But it's something. The best example to use is the Reggae Boys, the Jamaica football team. They have invested in scouting the diaspora immensely, which is why you have players like Damari Gray, Mikhail Antonio, Ethan Pinnock, Dexter Lembakisa, who else? Amari Bell, Greg Lee, Deshaun Bernard, Joe Labitadeur, Casey Palmer. Like the Reggae Boys have shown from a football perspective how you can mine into your diaspora and find talent that's better than talent back at home. I will never understand why Cricket West Indies haven't done more about this. And who won Cuss Can Cuss in the Caribbean? Because I don't care. If the players are better, they're better. I don't care whether they were born in the Caribbean or not. From when their parents are from the Caribbean, that's good enough for me. But then people say, oh, Mash, but that's just because I was born in Jamaica. Say something. Right, let's move on. Next question. Oh, that was the second part of the question. Sorry. Next question. How do we hold the people for match fixing responsible, and how do we put an end to it? We've all got our head. Well, not me. Too many people have their heads in the sand about match fixing. Everybody that really matters in cricket, who has levers on the position of power, know it's going on. All of them know it's going on. I've spoken at length about the T20 leagues because they're unregulated. So it's becoming easier in certainly the smaller and the more down bad ones to get away with it. You only have to. You don't even have to be that well versed in cricket to know when a fix is on or a player is dodgy. Just watch enough cricket. Just watch enough, particularly of this T20 stuff. And when you see like a down bad over or something that just like is unfathomable and it don't make any sense, the first thing I think when I see stuff like that is, yeah, match fixing, isn't it? So, or something's up, the fix is on, or something dodgy is going on. As I said on a previous episode, can't remember how long ago, the fixers are like 10 steps ahead of the ACU. I read an article the other day where the head of the anti-corruption unit has stepped down. I think it's an English guy, and he was saying, "Oh, I leave the sport in a healthy position. I think I can confidently say that we've really got a grip on fixing, and the way we deal with it has improved. And I'm a bit worried about some of these down bad T20 leagues, but we think we've got a control on it." And when I read that, I thought, bullshit. Name the last. It's not feasible. It's not feasible. It's. Do you mean to tell me? So let's just look at West Indian players as an example, right? The last two major West Indian players to be done on match fixing or being influenced by bookies or whatever they want to call it was Devon Thomas and Marlon Samuels, right? And that's two in the last. What's that? Two in the last. When was Samuels done? Let's say two in the last 6-7 years, right? Do you mean to tell me? Come on, people, be realistic. Do you mean to tell me that only two West Indian players, and for that matter, any player from any other players from any other cricketing nation, do you mean to tell me that only two people out of the whole of the Caribbean region that can play cricket, only two have been susceptible to betting or fixing or taking bribes or taking gifts or whatever it is they're being charged with? Two. And then you got the head of the ACU saying, yeah, we got this under control. Am I dumb? Am I a dickhead out here? Two? Come on, man. And that's not about digging out West Indian players. That's just about being realistic. Come on, cricket is rife with it. Rife with it. And the same people come in the comments and go, Mash, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? It's like you people are foolish out here, man. Come on, man. Those who know, innit? Those who know. And I get it. Some of you don't want to think it's true because maybe you're still holding on to this romantic view of what cricket is and so on and so forth. But two? Let's move on. Oh, sorry. How do we put an end to it? Do you know how we're going to put an end? Well, this wouldn't put an end to it. But what is needed in the near future, and I assume it's going to happen at some point, is there needs to be a real big name player that is exposed. And you see, when they finally expose a real big name player who's at it or involved in it, things will go quiet for a bit. But at the moment, they're able to say, oh, it's a couple down bad UAE man, or a couple down bad Oman man, or a couple down bad associate man. And they're making it look like it's only little man who are doing this. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. This before we talk about the owners of clubs. Anyways, let's move on because they'll come for me. Right. Next one. What money was earned for Cricket West Indies and Caribbean economies from the T20 World Cup? I don't know. Has anyone seen the figures for that? And you know what? I'm not saying I don't know because I haven't gone looking for it. I've just not seen it announced. And if it has been announced and I haven't seen, I'll hold my hands up. But I haven't seen it announced yet, or announced extensively to say, yeah, and the T20 World Cup benefited Barbados to the tune of X million, or it benefited St. Vincent to the tune of whatever, or Trinidad, or whoever. I ain't really seen anyone advertising it like that. That doesn't mean that it hasn't been successful, but I just haven't seen the figures and the stats and the facts and people pumping up their chests about it. I did see Cricket West Indies say, oh, we've just hosted a really successful T20 World Cup. And I've seen Cricket West Indies talk about how it's improved their coffers for the year end in 2024 and into 2025. But I've not seen individual nations and boast about what it's done for their economies. That doesn't mean it hasn't been a net improvement. I just haven't seen anybody really talking about it. Maybe they're still crunching. Maybe they're still counting the profits. Who knows? Next question. What lesson have we learned about Caribbean cricket, fans included, from the T20 World Cup? I learned that a lot of the games weren't that well attended. Even obviously you had the sellout at Brian Lara for West Indies versus New Zealand. But the other games, take away West Indies, some of those games were really badly attended. So it bears, but no, it's badly attended, harsh. It wasn't well attended. And it begs the question, is there really a love for cricket? I know as a region in general, from nation to nation to nation, we're all a bunch of bandwagonists. Not me. I support West Indies through thick and thin, but a lot of you are bandwagonists. You're only coming to watch the cricket if you're guaranteed that there's going to be a real good vibe, that West Indies are likely to win, and that there's just a vibe and a mentality going, and it's fear of missing out, and you want to be there and say that you were there. But when those vibes aren't there, and when the cricket's not a guaranteed win, and when it's not over quickly, you don't see no people. So I wouldn't say that the T20 World Cup taught me anything new, so to speak. A good question to ask is, did it show anything about where cricket is popular in the region and where it should be held? That's a good question to dive into. I haven't got any answers for that per se, but that'd be a good question to dive into. And the other question I'd love to have answered, and again, people who feel that they can answer it, feel free to come on the show. But the other question I'd love answered is, what have Cricket West Indies learned about the US market, and how do they want to incorporate relations with Cricket USA, which obviously is a corrupt entity, but how do they want to incorporate future working relationships with USA Cricket, or involving themselves in the US market? Do they think there's a market there, or was this just a standalone World Cup hosted within the Caribbean and the United States, and that's that. And there's nothing really to develop and learn from that going forward. I know already USA have dismantled some of the stadiums that they built for that World Cup and like a pop up stadium. So what's the lasting legacy? Some of the nations improved their cricket stadiums. Barbados, Noel, what's his name? I can't remember what his surname is. I think if his first name is even Noel. You had several people in several nations boasting about how they'd upgraded the facilities in their nations for the World Cup. And my question all along was, so what's the legacy now? World Cup's gone now. So what's the legacy? And I'd love to just know a bit more about what's the legacy going forward for these stadiums that were upgraded. How are you now benefiting your nation now there's no world global tournament to host? I'd love to know. Jamaica's sitting, some say comfortable, because they didn't spend no money on it. They didn't upgrade nothing. They didn't bid for nothing. So they know they haven't made any net loss from it. They don't have to worry about what's the legacy. Now, obviously, you could argue questions about, yeah, but how are you going to grow cricket in Jamaica? All of that. But I want to know what's the legacy now moving forward for some of these nations and their stadia. Next question. Did we disband the Headley Week Series initiative too early? I mean, there's 7 teams in the West Indies Championship. Sorry, 7? 8 teams in the West Indies Championship. Let me just count these again. Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Leeward Islands, Windward Islands, CCC, and the West Indies Academy. I think Cricket West Indies would argue, some would say rightly so, if you've got 8 teams in the tournament and they're playing a full round of games, why would you have Headley Weeks at the end of it? The last time we had Headley Weeks, it was because West Indies Academy played 2 games against the best of the 6-team West Indies Championship. CCC weren't involved then. Now you've got CCC and West Indies Academy playing 7 games as well. That's extra games for the other 6 franchises. Do you need a Headley Weeks? I get why you're asking it though. So effectively, you're asking for an all-star game. So once you've had all 7 rounds of the West Indies Championship, effectively what you are really saying is pick an all-star, 2 sides, 22 players, and let's see best versus best. And that's really telling you who's ready for West Indies cricket, because they would have gone through 7 rounds of red ball cricket, then played an all-star game, then we can pick people. So I'm not against it. I'm not against it, but I'm just telling you why they probably stopped doing it. But now I've said that all-star thing, I'm probably in favour of that. It's one more round of cricket, and it's another way to differentiate the best from the best, possibly. Get them in the comments below. Last question. Like I say, this is a 2-parter, so possibly myself and Santoki will do the second part. If you want more of these type of short episodes opening up the CCP mailbag, then just send the questions in, and we'll open up the mailbag. Last question, what's going on with the under-19 girls? Now, obviously, there is a West Indies Academy for the ladies as well, not just the boys and the men's team. There is an academy side for the girls. Didn't they recently play a series against USA again? I want to say, yeah, I feel like they played a series recently against USA. Let me just try and see if I've got that right. Hold on. So I'm looking, I've just typed into my notes to see the most recent thing about under-19 girls. So the last news item from Cricket West Indies was that, oh yes, remember, that's it. They came here. What am I talking about? They came here for a tour of England. They played a tour of England in August and September. But tell you the truth, I don't know what happened. And this is, again, this is one of my criticisms, though. I don't know what happened. I'm here. I'm in the country. And I don't know what happened. Ask yourselves this, people. How well advertised was that tour in England? I didn't even know where the games were taking place. I found out that one game was, I can't remember where in London it was, but I found out like the day after. Bear in mind that we get a lot of the news that goes on about cricket in the region, and we didn't even know what was going on. Cricket West Indies barely mentioned it on their social media handles. I don't know if they really won any games. or what the results were. So the person who sent in the question is right to say what's going on, because I don't even know what happened in England. We did play against the American under-19s in July. So, I mean, they're getting cricket. They've played against the Americans under-19s in July. They came here for a tour of England to play some... who did they play? They played some teams from Scotland and Ireland. 3 fixtures against an ECB Southern under-19s women's regional team. But again, I don't really know the results, people. Do you know the results? I don't know. Anyways, there's an under-19 Cricket World Cup taking place for the women's team. That's in January 2025. So that's about 4 months away. And that's taking place in Malaysia. But I don't have any news for you lot, people. Let me just, before I wrap this, let me just see if I can find anything. Let me see if I can find it. This is why the person sent in the question. I think it was Javino who sent in the question. This is probably why he sent it in, because you're probably expecting me to tell you the answers. I don't know. If there's anybody from Cricket West Indies watching this, or anybody in the region in general who knows what happened on that England tour, please tell us, because I don't know. Anyways, people, that's been an opening of the CCP mailbag. There's more questions that we need to answer. That'll come from a part 2 show. Thank you everyone who sent in those questions. Hopefully we can make this a more regular show on the channel. Let me know if you enjoyed that. And if you did, send in your questions, and let's keep doing content like this. Anyways, listen, people, it's quite late in the UK. I need to go to bed. I've got work tomorrow morning. I've been Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Those who are watching CPL, enjoy that game tonight, or if you're watching this whilst it's still going on, cool. If you're watching it the following morning, good for you. But whatever you're doing, like, share, subscribe. I think we're about 25 people away from 10K. So if all 25 of you who haven't yet subscribe before the end of the show or right now, perfect. Because that would be a good milestone to hit. If you'd also like to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, just head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket, and you can support us for as little as one whatever of your currency: £1, £1, £1 rupee, €1, $1 East Caribbean dollar, whatever. If you want to support, just go to that website on the ticker tape below, and you can help the Caribbean Cricket Podcast stay on the airwaves. I'll be Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. See you soon.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.